Today I'm going to be talking about supply and demand and the supply and demand curve and what causes the curve to supply and demand. So my first example for supply and demand is in Hercules. So the example that I took from Hercules was the people of Greece were in need of a hero, and so the supply was way down and the demand was way high. So that they weren't at the equilibrium, which is the middle of the supply and demand. And Hercules trains and trains and trains, and he becomes their hero. And once Hercules becomes the hero, the demand goes down, and the supply actually shoots up a lot more because Hades is throwing so many monsters at him. But they reach their equilibrium. There's enough demand for Hercules, and there's enough supply for him to stay busy and him to work there. So that was my example from Disney's Hercules. And then the supply and demand in Emperor's New Groove. So there I found two different supply and demands in Emperor's New Groove. So the first one is the potion to turn you human. So in the beginning of the movie, he is turned into a llama, and by the end, him and the scary lady, I can't remember her name, she is turned into a cat. Yzma's turned into a cat, and that switches the supply because there was one person that was a llama, and there was one potion that would turn him back into a human. So the supply was equal with the demand, so they were at the equilibrium. And then when Yzma was turned into a cat and all of her guards were turned into various animals, the supply went way down and the demand shot way up for it. So it made it worth a lot more, which you can see in the movie as they fight over it on the roof of the building, or on the side of the building on the pictures. And the second one was the village that Cusco wants to turn into his birthday village, because at the beginning Paco is the only one that wants it, and he has it, so the supply is equal with the demand, and the village isn't worth too much. And then when Cusco decides that he wants it, the supply is less than demand, so the cost of the village goes up, and the supply, it finally comes to its equilibrium when Cusco moves into the village in his little cottage, and they share it. My last example is from Disney's Winnie the Pooh. And this one is when Winnie the Pooh runs out of honey. So there's a high demand for honey now and no supply. So that means that honey is going to be very valuable to him, and he figured out a way to get into a bee's nest. And so when he got into the bee's nest, the supply was very high, and the demand was much lower after he ate it. And he got to the equilibrium when he got finished eating honey, and he filled up his jars, and the supply actually went down a little bit, so it wasn't quite at the equilibrium, which made the bees angry, and they chased him into a pond. That's what I have for you guys today. Here's some of my sources, and thank you guys for watching.